So now I will go into the first sutta in the chapter of the ones, and the number is 1.1. There are 10 suttas here, but you can group them all as 1.1. Thus have I heard. Now I read the sutta. Thus have I heard. On a certain occasion, the Exalted One was staying near Savatthi at Jeta Grove in Anathapindika's park. I'll stop for a moment. Now all the suttas start with these words, thus have I heard. And this is the Buddhist tradition, because it was decided at the first Sangha Council that all the suttas will start this way. Evam me sutang, that's the Pali. Thus have I heard. Now the Exalted One here is a translation for the Bhagava. Bhagava is the name, one of the 10 names of the Buddha. That's why we chose the name of this vihara as Bhagava, Vihara Bhagava, after the Buddha. Savatthi at Jeta Grove in Anathapindika's park. This monastery was donated by Anathapindika. That's why it's called Anathapindika's park, or Anathapindika's monastery. Now we'll continue the sutta. Then the Exalted One addressed the monks, saying, Monks, Lord, replied these monks to the Exalted One. The Exalted One said, Monks, I know of no other single form by which a man's heart is so enslaved as it is by that of a woman. Monks, a woman's form obsesses a man's heart. Monks, I know of no other single sound by which a man's heart is so enslaved as it is by the voice of a woman. Monks, a woman's voice obsesses a man's heart. And similarly, monks, I know of no other single scent or smell, no other single savor or taste, no other single touch, by which a man's heart is so enslaved as it is by that of a woman. And then conversely, the Buddha says, Monks, I know of no other single form by which a woman's heart is so enslaved as it is by that of a man. Monks, a man's form obsesses a woman's heart. Monks, I know of no other single sound by which a woman's heart is so enslaved as it is by the voice of a man. Monks, a man's voice obsesses a woman's heart. So similarly for smell, taste and touch. And that's the end of the sutta. Now these 5, now I'll just explain a bit. These 5 things described here. The first one is form, rupa. The second one is sound. Third one is smell or scent. Fourth one is taste. The fifth one is touch. What are these 5 things? These 5 things are called the objects of the 5 senses, or the objects of sensual desire. So, of all the objects of sensual desire, nothing can attract a person so much as the opposite sex. Now we all know that the spiritual path is concerned with giving up, renouncing sensual desire, sensual pleasures. So that is why, because the opposite sex is the most attractive of all the sensual objects, objects of the senses, that the opposite sex is the biggest obstruction to the spiritual path. And that has been obvious when we look at, for example, the monks disrobing. It is a fact that approximately 9 out of 10 monks who disrobe do so because of a woman. And probably the converse is also true. Probably 9 out of 10 nuns who disrobe also do so because of a man. So that's why, like in any religion, the spiritual path, for example, Buddhist religion, Hindu religion, Christian religion, etc., chastity is a essential requirement. of the spiritual path, to give up the desire for the opposite sex, because it is the greatest of all desires. So, in another sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha also warned about monks staying together with nuns, that if they're not careful, they would either break the precepts or they would disrobe. So, now in another sutta in the Digha Nikaya, in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, before the Buddha passed away, Ananda asked the Buddha, he said, Bhagava, how are we to act towards women? And then the Buddha said, don't look at them, Ananda. And then Ananda said, but Bhagava, suppose we have to look at them. Then the Buddha said, then don't speak to them, Ananda. Then Ananda said, but Bhagava, suppose we have to speak to them. Then the Buddha said, then do so with mindfulness, Ananda. So from there we can see the Buddha asked his monks to be extremely careful, to be extremely cautious in their dealings with women, etc. And there is a sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya called the Nivapa Sutta, where the Buddha said it is not practical for a monk to go off into the deep forest and live by himself. So in the Nivapa Sutta, the Buddha said that a monk cannot live by himself in the deep forest away from lay people, because he has to depend on lay people for the food. And the Buddha said, so because the monks have to live near lay people, it is very dangerous. And the Buddha gave a simile of the deers trying to look for food, and then the farmer, because it eats the farmer's crops, then the farmer tries to kill them. So the Buddha said the farmer is a simile for Mara, and there is always this danger from Mara. And the Buddha said in the Nivapa Sutta that the only way monks could survive was to meditate and practice samadhi, because with strong samadhi we have a tranquil mind. That's the only way we can fight sensual desire. That's why there's a Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 14 called the Chula Dukkha Kanda Sutta, where a cousin of the Buddha, I think Mahanama, came to tell the Buddha or ask the Buddha. He said, Bhagava, even though I know that greed, hatred and delusion are wrong things to indulge in, yet sometimes my mind still goes towards greed, hatred and delusion, become a prey to greed, hatred and delusion. Then he asked the Buddha, why is that? Is that something I have not cultivated? And then the Buddha said, even though an Aryan disciple has seen clearly as it actually is, with proper wisdom, how sensual desires provide little gratification, much suffering and much despair, and how great is the danger in them, as long as he still does not attain to delight and pleasure, that is piti and sukha, that are apart from sensual pleasures, apart from unwholesome states, or to something more peaceful than that, he may still be attracted to sensual pleasures. So here the Buddha is saying that unless we can attain the delight and pleasure, the piti and sukha, that are not worldly, that comes from a tranquil mind, then we are still a slave to sensual pleasures. So that's the comments I have to make on the first sutta. Now we go into the 1.2, the suttas in 1.2. Here the Buddha says, monks, I know not of any other single thing of such power to cause the arising of sensual desire, if not already arisen, or if arisen, to cause its development and increase as the feature of beauty or attractiveness. In him who pays not thorough attention to the feature of beauty, sensual desire, if not already arisen, arises, or if already arisen, is liable to develop and increase. Okay, now I'll stop for a moment. Here, first, these suttas here concern the 5 hindrances, pancha nivarana. What are these 5 hindrances? The Buddha says that these 5 hindrances are 5 things that cover us so that we do not see the world as it really is. And it's just like a person who wears dark glasses. When you are covered with dark glasses and you try to see a certain color, you can never see it as it really is. You may be absolutely convinced or you may swear that a particular color is such and such because it appears such and such to you. And yet, when the dark glasses are removed from you, then you'll be surprised to see that they are quite different from what you thought they were. So, in the same way, unless we get rid of these 5 hindrances that cover us, we can never see things the way they really are. We only see things the way they seem to be to us. And the first of these 5 things that cover our wisdom is sensual desire. The second one is ill will or malevolence. Third one is sloth and torpor. Fourth one is restlessness and remorse. The fifth one is doubt, and sometimes it's called doubt and wavering. These are the 5 things. So here the first sutta is saying that sensual desire arises mainly because of the feature of attractiveness or beauty. For example, a man may be attracted to a woman because he thinks that that woman is beautiful or attractive in some way. And similarly, a woman may be attracted to a man because she finds something attractive in his looks. Now, this feature of beauty, of attractiveness, what is it? It is a perception. It is a perception that is formed in our mind. And if we look into some other suttas later, we find that it is one of the things that we associate with the self. There are 5 things, the Buddha calls them the panchakanda, 5 aggregates that we associate with the self. First one is the body. The second one is feeling. Third one is perception. Then volition, then consciousness. So the Buddha says in some other sutta that perception is formed from habit. Because of the way nature has made beings, we have certain perceptions. But the Buddha said, perceptions can change. For example, if a person he does not cultivate his mind, he might find the form of the opposite sex very attractive. But somebody who develops his mind, cultivates the 32 parts of the body, the meditation of the 32 parts of the body, then he begins to see the body as it really is. Not only the external part of the body, but the internal part of the body. He'll be able to sort of picture a person in terms of blood and bones and flesh and oil and fat and urine and pus, saliva, etc. Then he might find that the body, a body of any person, is no more attractive. He might find even a body as being loathsome. So perceptions can be changed. Perceptions are something that we form arbitrarily. For example, somebody might find a particular person as very handsome, whereas another woman might find that person as not handsome. Similarly, a man might find a woman as beautiful. Some other man might look at the woman and see that it's not beautiful. So it's all in the eyes of the beholder. So the Buddha says, if we pay thorough attention to the feature of beauty, then it does not this sensual desire will not arise so quickly. We have to pay, if we understand the Dhamma, then we pay thorough attention, or whatever perception we have, we look into it and see that it's just an opinion only that we have. and then it does not enslave us so much. Now after that, another sutta. Monks, I know not of any other single thing of such power to cause the arising of ill will, if not already arisen, or if arisen to cause its development and increase as a repulsive feature. In him who pays not thorough attention to the repulsive feature, ill will, if not already arisen, arises, or if arisen, it is liable to develop and increase. Okay, I'll stop a moment also here to talk about this ill will. The Buddha says is increases because there is something repulsive that we don't like, and that makes our anger develop or increase. But if we pay thorough attention to that repulsiveness that we think is there, then this ill will can decrease. So we can see in both cases thorough attention or thorough consideration is very important. Now the third one, monks, I know not of any other single thing of such power to cause the arising of sloth and torpor, etc., as regret, drowsiness, languor, surfeit after meals, and torpidity of mind. In him who is of torpid mind, sloth and torpor, if not already arisen, arises, and if arisen, is liable to develop and increase. So sloth and torpor is due to regret, drowsiness, eating too much, and torpid mind. Monks, I know not of any other single thing of such power to cause the arising of restlessness and remorse, if not already arisen, or if arisen to cause its development and increase as non-tranquility of mind. In him who is of troubled mind arises restlessness and remorse, if not already arisen, or if arisen, it is liable to develop and increase. This non-tranquil mind, most of us have it, whereas a tranquil mind is something that we need to develop, we need to train ourselves to attain. So, for most people, restlessness and remorse is something quite natural. For example, if you ask somebody to stay alone by himself, he'll find it quite difficult. Even to stay in the house, by yourself. Many people, they look at the four walls after some time, after they have finished reading the newspaper and watch the TV and all that, they look around the four walls, they think they are going crazy and have to go out and do something. Another sutta. Monks, I know not of any other single thing of such power to cause the arising of doubt and wavering, if not already arisen, or if arisen to cause its development and increase as unthorough attention. In him who gives not thorough attention arises doubt and wavering, if not already arisen, or if arisen is liable to develop and increase. So here again, thorough attention is very important. Proper attention, you can also call it proper attention. This word is yoniso manasikara. Yoniso comes from the word yoni. Yoni means the womb or the source. And manasikara is literally work of mind. So it means attention or consideration or contemplation. So the word yoniso manasikara actually means contemplation or consideration that brings you back to the source of the problem. So that's why I like to translate it as thorough consideration or thorough attention. Monks, I know not of any other single thing of such power to prevent the arising of sensual desire, if not already arisen, or if arisen to cause its abandonment as the feature of ugliness. In him who gives thorough attention to the feature of ugliness, sensual desire, if not already arisen, arises, or arises not, or if arisen, it is abandoned. So here, you see, if you think that you are attracted to a particular person because that person is beautiful or handsome or whatever, then you try to look for the ugly side of that person. When you look for the ugly side of the person, then the sensual desire can diminish. Monks, I know not of any other single thing of such power to prevent the arising of ill will, if not already arisen, or if arisen to cause its abandonment, as goodwill released or radiated by the mind. In him who gives thorough attention to goodwill or metta released by the mind, ill will, if not already arisen, arises not, or if arisen, it is abandoned. So here, ill will or anger can be reduced by metta. Metta here is we translate it as goodwill. We can translate it as impersonal love. Metta is a good antidote for anger and ill will. The word here, which I have translated as goodwill released by the mind, is metta ceto vimutti. Here, actually, the book is translated as the heart's release through amity. I feel it is metta released by the mind, because from the other suttas, it would seem that to really practice metta, you have to develop jhana. Without jhana, you think you are radiating metta, but other beings cannot feel it. The only way to radiate metta properly is to have very strong jhana. Then you can radiate out that metta. Monks, I know not of any other single thing of such power to prevent the arising of sloth and torpor, if not already arisen, or if arisen to cause its abandonment, as the element of putting forth effort, of exertion, of striving. In him who energetically strives, sloth and torpor arises not, or if arisen, it is abandoned. So here, to fight sloth and torpor, we have to put forth effort, exertion, striving. Sloth and torpor, a lot of it is due to sleeping too much. The more we sleep, the more sloth and torpor we have. And sleep is one of those things that you can never have enough of. The more you sleep, the more you want. Monks, I know not of any other single thing of such power to prevent the arising of restlessness and remorse, if not already arisen, or if arisen to cause its abandonment, as tranquility of mind. In the tranquil-minded, restlessness and remorse arises not, or if arisen, it is abandoned. So, the antidote for restlessness and remorse is to cultivate tranquility of mind. That means cultivate samatha. Monks, I know not of any other single thing of such power to prevent the arising of doubt and wavering, if not already arisen, or if arisen to cause its abandonment, as thorough attention. In him who gives thorough attention, doubt and wavering arises not, or if arisen, it is abandoned. Now this doubt and wavering, sometimes we listen to certain teachings, or we listen to certain doctrines, or we listen to what somebody says. We have doubt. But if we contemplate, we reflect on what that person says, think carefully, and then the doubt can be resolved. So that's why the Buddha says that even when we listen to Dhamma, we have to reflect on the Buddha's teachings, think about it, examine it, and test it, see whether it's really true or not. Then only after that, if you find that it is true, then only you accept it. Now the other sutta is 1.3. 1.3.1. Monks, I know not of any other single thing so uncontrollable as the uncultivated mind. The uncultivated mind is indeed a thing uncontrollable. 1.3.2. Monks, I know not of any other single thing so controllable as the cultivated mind. The cultivated mind is indeed a controllable thing. I stop here for a while to comment. So, if the mind is not cultivated, it is very difficult to control it. In fact, when we practice meditation, especially samatha meditation, we are exercising control over the mind every moment. When the mind tries to run away, we bring it back to one single object. It runs away again because that is a tendency of the mind, to run, or you always keep on running. and we bring it back to one object. So every moment we are exercising control over the mind. And if we keep on doing that, then when samadhi arises, then we are able to, samadhi is the result of controlling the mind. So when we have samadhi, then the mind is controlled already. And that's why the Buddha says, there's no other single thing so controllable as the cultivated mind. Now 1.3.3 and 1.3.4. Monks, I know not of any other single thing so conducive to great loss as the uncultivated mind. The uncultivated mind indeed conduces to great loss. Monks, I know not of any other single thing so conducive to great profit as the cultivated mind. The cultivated mind indeed conduces to great profit. Just now I forgot to mention, when we cultivate the mind, there are two aspects of it. One is cultivation of the mind. Sometimes the word used is bhavana. Bhavana is to develop, to cultivate the mind. Development of the mind or cultivation of the mind. One aspect of it, as I mentioned just now, is samatha, to train the mind, to control the mind. The other aspect is vipassana. Vipassana is to use that controlled mind to contemplate and to get wisdom. So samatha and vipassana are both necessary. Now, if our mind is uncultivated, here the Buddha says it conduces to great loss. Why? Because if we have an uncultivated mind, the hindrances are very strong. Sensual desire is very strong. Ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry and doubt. And it's obvious if somebody is troubled by sensual desire, that he'll become very restless, trying to satisfy his sensual desire, and a lot of his energy and time, etc., and money, everything is wasted there. Or if he has a lot of ill will, then he won't be successful in whatever he does. If he's a businessman, nobody likes to do business with him. Or whatever he does, anybody with anger, nobody likes. Everybody tries to avoid somebody with anger, etc. And then, because your mind is not clear, not cultivated, you might make wrong decisions. You cannot see things, you cannot see your problem very clearly, and you are like in a daze. So that's why the Buddha says conduces to great loss. Whereas cultivated mind conduces to great profit. Cultivated mind is a person with a lot of wisdom. And there's some other sutta where the Buddha says, what is the condition for somebody to have great wisdom, to have a lot of insight? The Buddha said the best condition is a mind that is bright and clear. A mind that is bright and clear is a mind that has developed the samadhi, the one-pointedness of mind taught by the Buddha, because the word is jhana. Jhana literally means incandescence, brightness. So when a person develops the jhanas, the mind becomes bright. And that, the Buddha says, is the best condition for insight. That's why you have a great profit from it. Now 1.3.9 and 1.3.10. Monks, I know not of any other single thing that brings such suffering as the mind that is uncultivated, not made much of. The mind that is uncultivated, not made much of, indeed brings great suffering. Monks, I know not of any other single thing that brings such joy as the mind that is cultivated, made much of. The mind that is cultivated, made much of, indeed brings great joy. So you see, somebody who has a lot of suffering, usually you find that person, he has not cultivated his mind. Now suffering, there are two types of suffering. One is mental suffering, one is physical suffering. Mental suffering is mostly man-made. And the Buddha says the difference between an Arya and a Putujana, an ordinary person, is that an Arya has no mental suffering. He accepts things as they come. He has no mental suffering. He does not proliferate whatever problems he has. He does not think about them and make them multiply in his mind. And so he has no mental suffering. So if we develop our mind, cultivate our mind, we don't have that kind of suffering, that unnecessary suffering. But there are some types of physical suffering that we cannot run away from. For example, getting old, getting sick and dying. That we cannot run away from. But mental suffering, most of it we can avoid if we cultivate our mind.